Good evening, everyone. We are waiting for the chief guest to join. So just give us a couple of minutes. We'll be able to start the session. Uma, please make Sridhar sir as co-host. Laukik, make Sridhar sir as co-host.
Good evening, sir. Sridhar sir is the co-host.
Yeah. Please make Sridhar sir as co-host. Sridhar sir, good evening. We are waiting for Vasu sir to join.
Good evening, good morning.
Good morning. We are waiting for Vasu sir to join. Vasu sir is having some internet
Technical
connection issues, seems to be.
Yeah, you messaged.
So, yeah, Uma, Vasu sir has joined. Yam Vasudev Rao. Can you make co-host, please, quickly?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Vasu sir, good evening, sir.
Just a second, sir. Yes, sir. Vasu sir is the co-host.
Vasu sir, good evening, sir.
Right. I'm just trying to get in there. 1 second, please.
Yeah.
Video is not. Can you see me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, good evening, sir. Good evening, sir. Thank you for joining, sir.
Thank you. It's not showing.
Uma, we can start, Uma. I think if Vasu sir is okay, we can start. Sridhar sir is okay, we can start.
Yeah, good evening, sir. Also, sir.
Good evening. Good
Good
morning to you,
evening,
Dr.
Vasu sir.
Sridhar.
Yeah,
Can
good
we start,
evening, good
sir?
morning. Yeah. Vasu sir, can we start, right, sir?
Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you, sir.
Interesting.
Yeah, your screen is visible, Uma. Uma, I think people are joining in YouTube also. So we have 100 people now in the Zoom. We can go ahead.
Yes. Thank you so much. Good evening and welcome to everyone. Today, as you all know, we are having a wonderful session, which is organized by the Indian Pharmaceutical Association's Industrial Pharmacy Division. And we have Vasu sir over here. Sir is the chairman for Industrial Pharmacy Division. Thank you so much for joining us today, sir.
Thank you.
So before I could move and introduce you all to Vasu sir, I would like to give a brief about today's session, what we are going to cover and what is this aimed at. We all know that clinical research industry is growing very fastly, and today we have all gathered over here to share the information about the clinical research landscape, how the clinical research are changing to the next gen clinical trials, and we have all the industry experts all across from US. We have Sridhar sir, we have Tina ma'am joining, we have Tandy ma'am joining very soon with us for their sessions. Today, we are going to see how clinical research and clinical trials are empowering the patient safety and how technology is changing and driving this industry. Thank you so much for joining with us. I'm going ahead with our chief guest of the day, Vasu sir's introduction. And once I complete, sir will be addressing all of us. Today, our chief guest and the organizing committee chairman is Vasudev sir. Vasudev sir is a seasoned entrepreneur with, and a visionary leader in the biopharmaceutical industry with over 25 years of experience in pharmaceutical manufacturing. As chairman and managing director of Bactochem Laboratories, sir has steered the company to the forefront of innovation in biological APIs and critical care solutions. With a strong foundation in pharmacy and deep insights into global pharmaceutical trends, Sir has established state-of-the-art manufacturing and R&D facilities, built an extensive innovation pipeline with over 20 products, and led the company's expansion into international markets, particularly in South Asia. Under Sir's leadership, Bactochem has achieved several global patents and continues to focus on affordable, research-backed therapies for lifestyle and life-threatening disorders. Sir is a strategic thinker and effective team leader, and Sir is deeply involved in community service. Sir is an active member of Lions Club of Hyderabad East and served uh, as its president in 2017. Sir has received so many awards for his contributions to the society, including Man of Excellence Award by IAF India, Global Platinum Business Excellence Award, Pharma Ratna Karnataka Pharmacy Council Award, India's 5000th Award in 2020, Pride of India Leadership Award, Golden Louis Marchesi Fellow Award, Rashtriya Ekta Sadbhavana Puraskar. Thank you so much for joining us today, sir. We are very happy and we are very glad that you have supported all of us in organizing this event and taking this innovation reach to all the people through your organization as well as through IPA. Thank you so much. I hand over it to you. The
Thank
stage
you.
is all.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the introduction and welcome all. As I've just now introduced, I am Vasudev. I'm the chairman for the Industrial Pharmacy Division of the Indian Pharmaceutical Association, which we also called as the India IPA. It's my pleasure to welcome you all to today's webinar, Clinical Research 2.0, Innovation Meets Integrity. On behalf of IPA and our partner, Clinosol, I thank you for joining this important discussion on the future clinical research. I also welcome our National President of Indian Pharmaceutical Association, Dr. R.N. Gupta, immediate past President, Dr. T.V. Narayana, Dr. Subhash Mandal, my fellow chairman of various other divisions, Dr. Ramesh Adupu, Dr. Ramkishan, DDC, CDSCO, Dr. Sumulata, and all other teammates. The Industrial Pharmacy Division of the IPA was formed with a clear objective to bridge the gap between academia and the pharmaceutical industry, ensuring that students and professionals are equipped with the latest knowledge, skills, and technological achievements. Our key initiatives and support to stakeholders, they remain this way. Skill development, we organize workshops, webinars, and training programs to help students and professionals stay updated with industry needs and also their trends. Industry academia collaboration. We work closely with universities and companies to align education with real world needs. Technology adoption, from AI in drug development to digital tools in clinical trials, we promote the use of cutting edge technologies to enhance efficiency and compliance. As far as student empowerment is concerned, through mentorship programs, internships, and career guidance, we support the next generation of pharma leaders. Our future plans of Indian Pharmaceutical Association, specifically of the Indian Industry Pharmacy Division, is to expand digital learning platforms for wider accessibility, strengthening global partnerships to bring best practices to India, focusing on sustainable and innovation in pharmaceutical manufacturing. Today's webinar and why it matters. We are in the transformative era for the healthcare. Clinical trials are evolving, becoming more patient-centric, data-driven, and tech-enabled. But with innovation comes responsibility. We must ensure that speed doesn't compromise safety and that technology supports, not replaces human judgment. A very, very important thing. Today's discussions will explore how to balance innovation with integrity, covering how relationships drive trial success, How tools are transforming clinical research, how data and compliance ensure ethical outcomes. These insights are crucial for building trust and excellence in the global research ecosystem. I look forward to an engaging session and hope today's takeaways inspire you to lead with both innovation and integrity in your work. Thank you very much, and let's begin. Dr. Sridhar, Mujib, over to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for opening today's webinar, sir. Thank you once again for joining us despite of your busy schedule, spending your valuable time with us, guiding us, supporting us all the way along with the Indian Pharmaceutical Association.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Thank you so much, sir. Moving ahead, we have our first speaker of the day, Dr. Sridhar, sir. I would like to take the privilege of introducing Sridhar, sir, to you. Dr. Sridhar is currently Patient Safety and Clinical Affairs Vice President for Amneal Pharmaceuticals, New Jersey. Dr. Sridhar is an accomplished clinical research and pharmacovigilance leader with over 2 decades of global experience in the pharmaceutical and life sciences industry. Currently, Sir is serving as the Vice President of Global Patient Safety and Clinical Affairs at Amneal Pharmaceuticals. Sir oversees global safety strategy, clinical development, and regulatory compliance, playing a key role in ensuring the efficacy and safety of the therapeutic products across various geographies. Sir is widely recognized for his expertise in clinical research operations, safety signal detection, regulatory strategy, and cross-functional leadership. Sir is helping in driving complex drug development programs from early phase clinical trials through post-marketing surveillance. With deep scientific acumen and strategic foresight, he has led global teams across the US, Europe, Asia, aligning clinical practices with evolving regulatory standards. Sir holds advanced degrees from Boston University and brings a strong foundation in clinical medicine and pharmacovigilance science. Sir's leadership has contributed to the development and approval of numerous high-impact generics, especially drugs and complex formulations. Thank you so much for having you here, sir. We are so glad to have you here, and thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar. We welcome you, and we request you to start your session.
Yeah, good evening, everyone in India and the other parts, and good morning, US colleagues. So it's my privilege to be here in the Indian Pharmaceutical Association, and yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Vasu Devrao, the chairman of the IPA. We are invited to your yeah, excellence, wisdom, the industry movements that you have taken up, and I take this opportunity also to thank um, Mujib and their team who have supported technically and conducted this session for the awareness session on the clinical research for the next generation, because gone are the days the traditional activities will be overcome by the gen means generation, next generation. So the current generation is more focused for the innovation. Their IQ levels are too high, and in this global village, so no more we are one part of now in this global village. We have to enhance the more means the theme of my presentation, mainly the Gen CT. The first time I have used this word, I think buzzword, the Gen. So where we want to focus on where are the innovation concepts and where we can this intelligence that is apart from human intelligence, the technology intelligence parts we can utilize, and we make more betterment of the human health. So that's the objective. The ultimate objective is human health. So when we say this, the clinical trial means now I will focus more mainly on the clinical trial concepts, where the yeah, I'm sorry because this is early morning, my voice is somewhat hoarse, so please uh, apologize for that. But the clinical trial ecosystem where we see if it undergoes a professional transformation. Means we have seen from a paper-based concept from the various other digital concepts that we have introduced, and this next generation clinical trials embodies a forwarded thinking approach for that, which combines this innovation, inclusion, and the intelligence, and also the integrity. Previously, when we have been taught to not to use I means an ego word, means I as an ego, but now I has many concepts. That's I, please don't take it as I as a ego, but I as an a information, innovation, inclusion, intelligence, and integration. So this is all the important factors where we redefine how clinical research is conducted, making it more efficient and equitable and insightful. So where we can innovate. So in clinical trials, where we leveraging the cutting edge technologies, such as we have wearable devices, we have telemedicine concepts and decentralized trial models, and these advances reduce patient burden and streamline data collection and accelerate the pace at which the clinical research, like adaptive clinical designs is one of the innovation, how studies to evolve dynamically based on the real-time data, enhancing both ethical and scientific rigor. So at the same time, when it comes to central to the from the Gen city concepts, the historically, when we see the clinical trials have struggled with the underrepresentation of diversified population, because we are taking certain sample of the population and executing the trials, which limits the generalizability of findings. And by broadening eligibility criteria, engaging various communities, now we have various social forms and addressing the
Sridhar sir,
participation.
are you sharing the screen by any chance, sir? We are unable to see any screen.
Screen, yeah, from there I asked them to share the screen.
Oh, okay, okay. Uma, can you share the screen, please, slides? Uma, can you project the slides?
Yes,
Sridhar
sir.
sir is unable
Yes,
to
sir.
do it.
I'm sharing. I'm sharing.
Thank you. Sorry. Yeah, slides are visible, sir.
Yeah, thank you. So thank you. So I was means yeah, please the slides apart, but the more of content I want to share where the what is currently a slide, previous slide, please. So so where we want to have more information on this the concepts, how to utilize the latest technology. So like what we were discussing, the how we can broaden the eligibility criteria and engaging various community patient oriented studies, because and this Gen CT ensures that clinical trials which reflect the diversity of the real world patient situation, because unlike the previous era, means when 20 to 21 century, how the technology has evolved, now the advancement in the technology, where we are now moving toward the real-time patient-centric studies. This leads to the more accurate, equitable, and trustworthy data that we will be utilizing in the um, human welfare or the human well-being. And when it comes to the intelligence part, where it refers to the integration of the advanced data analytics and artificial intelligence and the real world evidence into clinical research, these tools enable smarter patient recruiters and the early safety signal detections, because now we were able to identify the concepts of pharmacophore group primarily from the toxicophore group of the moiety, and where we can simulate one molecule to more safer means for the humans, and a personalized treatment approach, where because now we have more personalized approach based on the patient, because each patient has a different genetic or the overall multiple other factors, so that the patient-centric treatment approach, that is more as called as personalized treatment. And at the same time, the robust data privacy measures, because each individual data privacy is most important, maintain the integrity and confidentiality of the patient information. So together, these pillars which we are discussing create a new paradigm in the clinical trials, on that which accelerate the drug development process and enhance patient outcomes, and also democratize access to the innovative therapies. Means because we require major, because of the climatic changes or the habitats, where we can see that many new types of disease are the infection, mutant variety of infection. So we need in a faster approach for the development of a molecule, and which needs for the end affected individuals. And that's the reason this next gen clinical trial definitely will be useful in terms of this unpredicted process of means, diseases as well as disorder. So overall, this will fasten the clinical research process in a smarter way and more inclusive. And the uh, where these are the few concepts. And sorry, next slide, please. So when we come to the evolution, how the clinical trials were evolved from the traditional challenges to the mm, current paradigm, the next generation clinical trials, we can see in the traditional clinical trial characteristic, where we have centralized sites, and where the patients have to visit specific clinical centers, often limiting participation to those living to the nearby, because they have to come for the various follow-up visits. And whereas in that concept, so where it happens that you are focusing on certain region or territory of the population, which becomes homogeneous population in the inclusion and the exclusion of the trial. And where this means this under representation of the population from the various diversified will restrict the results to one particular, and also we will not be able to include the special populations like elderly or pediatric, or on the comorbid conditions was not studied in the traditional process. Whereas it was more manual data entry, where the reliability of the individuals rather than on the errors were not recognized in many of the studies. So that's because of this manual process, the recruitment was slow, and it was leading to the higher cost and the longer duration. So from there, when we have come to the shift to the new concepts of these three pillars which we were discussing, and which created the decentralized clinical trials leveraging telemedicine systems, mobile health technologies, and remote monitoring concepts, and also to conduct clinical trials with minimal persons visit. See, in the US we have these pharmacies, CVS, and the where we can directly, the patient will be obtaining their medication and updating in the digital diaries, which directly monitored at the remote places, so that patient visits to the hospitals is reduced. And the same type, when we have moved from the conventional designs to the adaptive clinical trials, allowing modifications in the trial parameters based on the interim data without compromising validity. And these digital tools were means like integration of these wearable devices, diaries, and the electronic patient reported outcomes, the PROs, what we say, and also the cloud-based platforms to enhance data accuracy and real-time access. So these were the a few paradigm changes that we have brought. So what were the benefits is faster patient recruitment, and streamlining data collection, reducing overall trial duration, and enhanced generalizability. So there, because we have expanded to the entire population, so diversified population to ensure the results apply to the real world situation. So which gives an remote participation of the patients, and patient engagement improves adherence and the satisfaction on the overall outcome of the study. So the smarter decision making, which enhances analytics, enabling more and informed, timely decision making. So yeah, next slide, please. Yeah, in this three pillars that we were discussing: innovation, inclusion, and the uh, integration. So first, let me talk about some cutting edge technology. We were already discussing the novel design concepts and the process improvement. And saying this, the intelligence concept on the data driven decision making. So when we say this data driven decision making, we are leveraging very advanced technologies like artificial intelligence, machine learning, and predictive modeling to optimize study design and this its conduct. And whereas this real-time remote monitoring, continuous oversight of the data trends and the risk safety signals will be detected earlier. And also the knowledge management, so mainly the systemic collection and the use of insights from the previous trials and the scientific literature to inform strategy. And also the regulatory foresight will be continuously there, where adaptively to give a quicker and ensure complex. So see, whatever I am speaking, you can connect with the means the recent pandemic, where when such incidents happen, there were a lot of queries on the traditional process of approach that the regulatory has taken based on the emergency situation. But however, this will minimize all those concepts. So we will be overcoming such type of situations very easily once this completely in full-fledged implemented. And the other part, the integrity. See, the most important thing is integrity in terms of ethical standards, upholding the patient's rights, informed consents, and the safety, and also the data integrity, where the ensuring the accuracy and also the completeness and traceability of all clinical data, the transparency in communication, the data, because it's in a real time evidence to everyone, from the regulators, from the sponsors, from the CROs, and to the patient. So it's all visible transparently to means ensuring the security of the data, or the patient privacy point of view. And stick adherence means also we can maintain the 100% compliance, and its accountability, maintaining the adherence to the GCP, also the applicable regulatory guidelines, and if any other internal policies are from their responsibility overall. So this smarter version or forward thinking technologies definitely will have a reliable outcome with advanced medicine responsible. Next slide, please. So here the concept that we have discussed, the innovative key innovative transformations in the design, that is the adaptive designs, which allows modifications to trial parameters, mainly the sample size, how we calculate in the adaptive means you understand this. So the treatment arms and the dosing part, dosing. So based on the interim data without compromising the study integrity, this flexibility accelerates the decision making, because we will not be wasting much of the time or the resources for the end final output, but interim analysis, which reduce the resource usages and the time that we keep enhances the overall probability of the success much earlier. And whereas the decentralized are the virtual trials using mobile health technologies, remote monitoring, and also decentralized trials reduce the patient burden by minimizing the site visits. This concept, this actually innovative concept, where patient access increase recruitment rates and improves retention. So That's more important, right? Retention, and also in the collection of the real world data, which which is more important, because this real world evidence data from the electronic health records, registries, and also which gives a higher insights beyond conventional trial endpoints, and also the various usage of biomarkers, precision medicine trials. So that is one of the concepts where also on the protocol and platform where multiple therapies or diseases to be studied with a single framework of the CT design, and also improves efficacy by sharing control groups and streamlining regulatory process. Whereas the most important where the buzzword artificial intelligence, my favorite means, I don't call it as artificial intelligence, it is assistant intelligence for the humans, where through machine learning and all these concepts which enhances trial designs through predictive modeling, means what we are saying, because we have NLPs, we have reasoning concepts. So when we use these machine learning concepts in this, the patient selection process from the real-time data analysis, and enabling more informed decisions to reduce trial. So overall, the faster development process, the cost saving, the time saving, and also patient safety and high quality and generalized. So greater regulatory flexibility. Yeah, next slide, please. Yeah, as we discussed the decentralized clinical trials, the decentralized clinical trials utilization will mainly in the EPROs or remote monitoring or all this concept. What are the key features that will improve is the patient recruitment, and also on the continuous monitoring, and the primary benefits, as you know already now, the overall cost, time, patient visitings, and overall the disruptions that we had in the traditional process will overcome in this. So, yeah, next slide, please. So these digital health technologies, as we have discussed some of this in this previous slides. So the benefits include the continuous real-time data collection with this usage of health technologies, and frequently monitoring will provide accurate and comprehensive data, and whereas improved patient conveniences, mainly enabling from means from where they are or from any place in this global village, where we can reduce the patient visits, and moreover the diversified population for the rare diseases, because the prevalence of certain diseases is not there in particular country, but if there are very few patients also, we can able to have global participation, and can means can result into the better outcome of the patient engagement and broader reach, and the data integrity point of view. So understanding these advantages of the digital health, overall we can have a driving evolution of these clinical trials towards the more patient centric, and also give the more rich data, which is more useful for the informed decisions by the regulatory authorities. Next slide, please. And what we can in inclusions, what we can do in expanding, as we discussed, is we can strategize certain this concept which impact morely on the expanding of access to the more generalized and robust data, means you can broaden the scope of this, and also support the personalized medicine by understanding diverse patient needs. So I think this is the concept, and we will go to the innovation on the recruitment. Next slide, please. So innovation in the recruitment strategies. So the recruitment of the patients in the clinical trial is one of the most critical and challenging aspects. And this where we need more of advancements, where accelerating enrollment, and with proper inclusion exclusion criteria, and improve participant diversity and enhance overall clinical trial, the trial success point of view. So the key recruitment approaches that we can think in innovating is a digital and social media outreach, where we can say that the platforms like social medias and where we can have demographic efficiently, and these campaigns can be tailor made as per the age, location, interest. So we will have the multiple segments of data as per the health conditions. And we also have can create many patient advocacy groups, community partnership, collaborating with many local bodies, community organization, means NGOs, where we can create a good trust and raise awareness in underrepresentation of the remote areas and also the hard to reach population. So we will get better data compared to the conventional model. And electronic health records, where this because of this big data analytics, which also very easy to understand the large data and identify eligible patients based on medical history, which accelerates pre-screening and recruitment. And nowadays the mobile recruitment apps that we can create potential participating to participant and completing their eligibility criteria or consent process electronically, and the recruitment process virtually, having online educational sessions to the patients, caregiver about the trial opportunities, and also addressing questions online so that the concerns are immediately addressed and immediately resolved. And this decentralized consenting process or the digital concepts which we have used already 10 years back, the digital pen concepts implementing e-consenting, remote enrollment process gives various geographies participation and from their respective locations, and which gives uh, patient better outcome. So overall, the shortcomings in the recruitment on the timelines and improving the diversified population and representation will increase. Saying this, I'll go into the next slide, please. Mainly on the intelligence, my favorite topic. So the assistant intelligence and the machine learning applications will this has revolutionized in most of the concept, not only in clinical trials, in many other area, automobile industry and many things, and which I think the current lifestyle, everything will be modified maybe in a decade with more advanced model. Many youngsters with very innovative thought process, they are coming up. I'm really amazed to see this uh, means current generation group. So good thought process in this enhancing data analysis and optimizing trial designs also we can utilize, whereas improving patient outcome. So how can this AI and ML transform clinical trials? Mainly the first most important one is the predictive analytics for the patient recruitment. So AI algorithms generally analyze EHR, so electronic health records, and other data sources to identify how the patient trend or how the progress on the most likely the qualification of the patients or to the enroll into the clinical trials, and reducing the screen failures, because based on this predictive, the where the entry parts, the defined questionnaires or the informed consent process will be improved, and optimizing trial designs. So machine learning is one such tool which stimulates trial outcomes and help designs adaptive trial designs, identifying means the sample size calculations, which is more statistically driven, but it will improvise mainly on the dosage regimen, where most of the challenges we use human intelligence to derive all these points for the primary endpoints achievement. and also the real-time monitoring and risk detection. We have again data integrity, which completely, and as I mentioned, the natural language processing, which are the tools exactly extract more relevant insights from the unstructured data, like the clinical notes, means the ongoing notes are the scientific literature, and from the patient's feedbacks to support the clinical trials planning and analysis in more effective model. And also the personalized medicine concept, the machine learning models identify patient subgroups, because again there are that represent that groups respond differently for the treatment, enabling more on the targeted therapy and improved efficiency. So now you understood that the benefits of AI increase the faster and more efficient clinical trial execution, reduced cost and the time, enhanced data quality, and more insights and the more predictive way of analysis. So there are challenges I would really mention, mainly on the data privacy concepts, regulatory compliance, and avoiding or validation of the tools. So those type of concepts, I think, once the regulations are mandated, then these type of things will be automatic. When we have a intelligence to develop this, we will have the intelligence to overcome the challenges also. So the next slide, please. So now the data integration part, so which is clear, as we discussed, it is more important, and because in order to have efficient data integration and advanced analytics are critical to unlock the full potential of the clinical trial data. Without data integration, and these analyticals and this all will be there. So the data integration involves combining data from multiple, the means I would say heterogeneous sources, such as health records, laboratory results, imaging, radiology from the genomic point of view, from the other devices, and so when we see all these uh, the integration part, where once we have this comprehensive review, why means we will enable the holistic understanding of the patient health and the treatment effects, and also we reduce errors in terms of from the to improve the data quality and inconsistency in the standardized formats and validations. So, saying this, and the analytics, predictive analysis or prescriptive analysis or the real-time analysis. So, these analytics will give a clear-cut safety signals and also the benefit. So, overall benefits is enhanced patient satisfaction and personalized treatment approach, and data-driven regulatory decision making with enhanced evidences on the data. Yeah. Again, the data privacy or on the completeness on the data, or the managing the different platforms, because certain platforms as different model, means SQL or PSQL, and some are the different platforms that are interfacing, or those challenges will always be there, and I think that technologically can be overcome. Yeah, next slide, please. Yeah, one such case study which we have seen recently in 2023, when the National Cancer Center, part of US National NIH, where the objective of this was enhancing efficacy of the clinical trial startups and execution, increasing the patient access, and promote innovative trial designs, and also leveraging digital health technologies. So when these concepts, key innovative concepts have place, the centralized trial management in establishing the trial activation, regulatory submissions, and the data management, and reducing the redundant effects on the shortcoming of the startups. So all these exercises were done means where the impact in reducing the outcome it has really good results from the months or the years to in weeks, many of the cases, and engaged geographics across the patient diversity, including the rural areas, and also the innovative recruitment and decentralized process has improved. So overall, these were the benefits out of this case study. And the next slide, please. So overall, this gave the regulatory landscape where for the USFDA means all the EMA, MHR, PMDA, any concept, any health authority. So this given the advantages in the trial. Means ensuring the trial design on the patient safety concept and data integrity and the privacy of or the data protection and the remote monitoring concepts and the patient inclusion, diversity, and finally the regulatory. So early and ongoing communications with the regulators through scientific meetings, SSC meetings, and the other task force meetings. This has emerged into various regulatory frameworks evolvement, and which has given good guidance to the industry. And only being this the patient centric approaches and the real world system has been really increased and enhanced. So orally, the navigating in the for the decision making for the regulatory point of view, this has given good compliance. Next slide, please. So yeah, the most means neglected or I don't prefer, because the challenge is always an opportunity to get into the new method of approach to I see into the positive way. So this can be overcome. So that regulatory complexity and the compliance part of view, where we have multi-country, multi-regional regulatory, the global harmonization, which we are mostly the regulators are also interacting, and there are many good uh, collaborative guidelines, and the regulatory engagement programs are still continuing. And the data privacy and security, now we have the more cloud-based systems where the digital platforms are into the more secure zone. And also this also have robust what do you say cyber security measures and compliance with laws like EMA's GDPR and HIPAA from the US. So it's more aligned. So the data is more into the safe harbor zone, which will be always secure and confidential. So the technology access means the variability of the patient access to the technology and different levels of digital literacy can create barriers to participate and data quality, especially in underserved population. So this can also be overcome through this technology. And integration of diversified data, and whereas stakeholders buy-in and any change management is also can be easily adopted using the technologies. And the operational complexity and the concepts on the cost, time, data quality, and integrity. Overall, addressing all these challenging mm, uh, mm, aspects proactively with strategic planning, the cross-functional collaborations, and continuous learning is essential for the realizing the benefits of these new concepts. Next slide, please. So the overall landscape of the clinical trials is posed for transformative change by I would say in a decade, where by the driven technology advancements and the patient expectations and the regulatory evolvement, will the trial will become more faster, smarter, and more inclusive and more integrated with the real world healthcare system. So, like what we have discussed on the decentralized hybrid trial models and the artificial intelligence power um, trial designs and the management part of it, integration of multi-omics and digital biomarkers, and also on the regulators and sponsors will increasingly accept the real world data from these digital tools that we have discussed, and also on the uh, global chain on the diversified populations can be means think differently. The country, when we want harmonization, the rare diseases can be means global recruitment on the global trials. So these the overall worldwide continued streamlined guidelines and collaborative enabling the faster approval of the innovative molecules for the therapies for the betterment of the human health. Saying in this next slide, please. So I'll will be concluding with a few means, as we have seen the transformation into merely from the efficacy speed point of view and making clinical trial more accessible and equitable and reliable for the diverse population by integrating real world data and leveraging advanced analytics and fostering collaboration among the stakeholders and future of the clinical research, promising safer, smarter, and more personalized therapies. So moving forward, embracing the innovation means come out of box thinking. The generation has to come with a resolve means problem solving approach, so that the goal is clear to accelerate the development of uh, effective treatments for improved patient outcomes throughout the world. So saying this, yeah, we all together should put an efforts um, by understanding the technology and setting up in a stage for the new area clinical trials. So and this defines the inclusivity overall. So and I just had just a brief introduction on the various, whereas the next speakers, Dr. Very experienced and the senior most professionals, Dr. Tina and Dr. Tendi, will go through the complete process in depth and the real time practical approach, so that you will have examples where we can discuss more on this. Thank you very much, everyone, for your patient listening. And if any questions, we can take it up or at the end as per this thing.
Thank you so much for the enlightening session, Sridhar sir. We
Uma,
have
Tina has joined. Can you make her a co-host and
yeah, sure,
we
sir.
can continue?
Yes, sir.
And
So
thank you, Sridhar sir.
we have a few questions, if any. If you
Thank
want
you,
to
Vasu
answer,
sir.
you can.
Thank you, sir. Questions we can take it at the later time, Omar, due to because I think other speaker is waiting, so we
All
can
right.
answer all the questions at the end.
All right, sir.
Yeah, so thank you everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Vasu
Thank
sir.
you.
Sridhar sir, we request you to stay back. We have a few questions. Once we complete, you can take them up.
Sridhar sir, if you are available, you can stay back for some time, or you wanted to answer a couple of questions, Sridhar sir.
Now, based on the interest of the time, I'll wait. Yeah, we can start the other sessions, because Dr. Tina is already waiting.
Yeah, Tina is waiting already. Uma, you can go ahead. Good morning, Tina. Thank you for joining.
Hi there. Good evening to everyone. Those on the Asian coast, and good morning to those of us here in the US. Thank you for this opportunity. Can I ask if my slides can be shared?
I think, Tina, can you give us 1 more minute so that
Of
my team
course.
member can introduce you, and then you can start your slides?
Of course.
Uma, can you quickly share the introduction slide for Tina, and then she can start sharing the screen, please? Uma, your voice is not audible for me, or
I'm sharing my screen.
yeah, perfect. I think now you are audible.
I hope my screen is visible.
No, it's
coming
the
up.
logo.
Yeah. Can you once again share? Uma?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's visible now.
Yeah. Thank you so much, confirming. Good evening once again. Let's welcome Dr. Tina ma'am on this stage. Dr. Tina Karnaratne is a founder and CEO of Karna Integrated Clinical Services, and ma'am is from Massachusetts, USA. Dr. Tina is a seasoned leader in the biopharmaceutical industry, boasting over 20 years of global experience in clinical operations, regulatory strategy, and program management. As the founder and CEO of Karuna Integrated Clinical Services, established in 2023, she leads a women-led organization dedicated to delivering flexible, high-quality clinical trial management solutions tailored for emerging biotech companies. Dr. Karnaratne's career encompasses leadership roles at various organizations, including Vice President and Head of Global Clinical Operations at Aurum Therapeutics, and positions at Astellas, Vertex, Organogenesis, USA Pharma, and Okata Therapeutics. Her expertise spans multiple therapeutic areas such as oncology, regenerative medicine, ophthalmology, and behavioral medicine. Academically, she holds a doctorate in law and policy from Northeastern University, a Master of Science in Regulatory Affairs from Regis College, and a Bachelor of Science in Healthcare Administration and Sociology. She is also a certified project management professional and has served as an adjunct instructor at both Northeastern University and Regis College. Beyond her professional endeavors, Dr. Karnaratne is deeply committed to community service. She serves as the boards of DOVE Domestic Violence Ended and Children across America and actively supports charitable initiatives in Sri Lanka focused on youth empowerment, women's leadership, and education. We are honored to have you here, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Wow, that was an extended introduction. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I'm sharing your slide.
Yes, thank you.
So I think you can start, Tina.
Sure. Yes. So, yes. So you can proceed to the next slide. Actually, go back just one slide. I'm so sorry. All I want to say on this slide is, in terms of a disclosure, that I have no financial disclosures or conflicts of interest with the Indian Pharmaceutical Association or any of the other organizers of this webinar. Thank you. You can move to the next slide. Yeah, so my topic today is as mundane as it may sound. There's a lot, and I want to kind of piggyback on some of what Sridhar said in terms of being innovative and collaborative. So I'll be kind of thinking talking outside the box as well when it comes to study startup. So basically, my presentation is focusing from feasibility to first patient in. And of course, touching on each of the key milestones, starting with feasibility assessments leading up to FPI. Next slide. Okay. So from a study startup perspective, as we know, we heard it in the earlier presentation in terms of, how can we impact the trial timelines and budgets? They go hand in hand. And how can we try to fast track yet maintaining quality? And we know that any delay in feasibility or pre-site visits, SQVs, SIVs, any of these does have a domino effect on first patient in, and which is considered the start of your trial when the patient signs informed consent. So the goal of my presentation is to be able to share some best practice, some innovative thought processing, and trying to kind of think and champion outside the box processes. Next slide, please. So again, as I said, it is, this is kind of clinical trial 101. So forgive me, I'm not undermining the audience, but it's important to touch on each one of them because often when in clinical trials, if we are not being innovative, we're all looking to check a box, right? When we think about a clinical trial, everyone is thinking, oh, we have a feasibility questionnaire. Oh, we got to do our PSSVs. We got to do SQVs. So how can we try to fast track this process or even bypass, in some instances, bypass this process, at least some of these processes, and yet being able to maintain regulatory compliance, but being innovative in terms of, are these actions that we are doing just checking a box or truly something that's adding value to our plan in terms of the clinical trial moving forward? For example, we saw in COVID that any of the clinical trials we conducted, we did fast track it. We were able to get IRBs to approve us in 2 weeks. We were able to do a lot of things that normally CROs particularly, or any other ancillary vendors don't necessarily, are able to do. So we've got to take some lessons learned from the 2 years that most of us were at a standstill during COVID, and we did all of this. So what is it that we can take best from this and continue in order to move the needle? Next slide, please. Feasibility assessment. Again, I have worked in, as you heard, in smaller biotech companies. And right now, for the last 2 years, I'm on the other side of the spectrum, which is, I built a niche clinical research organization. And what I'm trying to achieve with this organization is being able to take the lessons learned from me in my role as a clinical operations lead, being a decision maker, looking at vendor proposals and budgets and everything else. What is it that we can try to conserve and yet move forward in a timely fashion? So when we talk about feasibility assessments, and I'm sure most of you who are working on clinical trials do understand, sometimes it's a lot of questions. If you're working at a site, you can so relate to the time it takes to be able to to do these feasibility assessments. And what I've been advocating for, and I did this in the biopharma industry, and now in my own CRO, where I'm trying to explain to the sponsors, do we really need a feasibility assessment? And if the answer is yes, then with all due respect, how can we have an abbreviated assessment that really doesn't take the time of a study coordinator? The study coordinator, as we all know, is not just doing one study. They are managing multiple studies at the same time. So how is it that we can help them? How can we put the humanizing factor into these people so that they're not burning fast as well? So when we talk about feasibility assessment, what I would like to propose is take off some of the mundane questions that you would ask, whether it's a sponsor requiring this, whether it's the CRO, questions like name of company, address, this, that. And if you're a CRO who has worked with this site, you should have this information, right? This is why targeted feasibility questionnaires are very important. You should take away all of those mundane questions and only focus on the disease area and any critical questions based on your protocol. If this is a site that has been, that the CRO or the sponsor has been working with, you even know, responses such as, how do I submit my budget and contract? Can I do it ahead of my IRB application? Can I do it in parallel? How, we ask these questions, but we do not have to keep them in feasibility questionnaires. We'd rather focus the feasibility questionnaire to pertain to the protocol, to pertain to the inclusion exclusion criteria, things that are very targeted, and which then you could work with the study coordinator to enable this, he or she to answer these questions. So, as I said, leveraging existing site data and site networks. The only caveat to that is if it is a naive site that you're working with, yes, then you do have to take the time to ask some of the questions. But again, I urge particularly CROs and sponsors to be innovative, take the time, and maybe nowadays with AI, as Sridhar mentioned, you can find some of this information. You can find the address, where the pharmacy is located, all those things. You can be resourceful and limit the time that a study coordinator would otherwise have to spend to be able to fill out these questionnaires. So it is not hand-holding. It is just being collaborative with all of the functions, whether it's your site, whether it's the sponsor, being able to understand how can we do things smarter, work smart, right? That's kind of the key thing. Automate and centralize responses using technology platforms. Again, very important. One would hope if you're a seasoned CRO, you have this already in your systems. Please use those. And even if you're a site, you can cut and paste, right? You have this information in another questionnaire that you may have filled for another sponsor or for the same sponsor, just trying to be. But I think this message that I'm carrying forward is more for the sponsor as well as the CROs to be able to automate their systems so you can pre-populate your feasibility questionnaire as opposed to just, again, checking a box, blindly sending your feasibility assessment to the site. And if you're a new CRO or if you're a naive site, you can start to build this platforms as well. Pre-screen sites based on historical performance and indication fit. Another important aspect of it, right? Again, CROs, if you know your sites, you don't have to ask certain questions. You don't have to ask questions like, do you have an EKG machine? Do you have a crash cart? All of these things you should know by now. So ideally, a feasibility questionnaire should be no more than 2 pages, very targeted for your therapeutic area, for the protocol, and that's about it. Be resourceful and have everything. So that's the best practice that I can emphasize on this presentation. Next slide, please. Pre-study visits. Again, something I'm not a proponent of. I think it's a waste of everybody's time. It adds dollars to anyone's budget. Unfortunately, sometimes, and again, I will apologize now and say my piece later, but if there are any CROs that are on the call, I think we all need to work smart. We can do away with PSVs because, again, if you know your sites, you don't need that visit. You're just taking time from everyone else and you're just adding money to the budget, which is not necessary. You can, again, have all this information. You can feed this information to the sponsor, and especially if it's a new sponsor you're working with, you can hopefully wow the sponsor by saying, you know what, I have this site information. This is the rundown on the site. If there's anything more you need to ask, we will, but we have this information. So, making that available through standardized templates and checklists is going to be beneficial to all parties concerned. Again, we learned from COVID that you don't have to do an on-site visit. Virtual or hybrid visits can also help both time and cost. If you have any specific questions, you can either, add it to your feasibility questionnaire, or you can save it for your SQV or your SIV, depending on how successful you've been with working with these sites, how much of experience these sites have. You can actually be able to, sign off a waiver on any PSSVs. I emphasize signing off on a waiver because you would encounter, as a sponsor, you would encounter CROs who will push back and say, oh, it's on my SOPs. I cannot avoid doing a PSSV. I cannot avoid doing an SQV. But you know what? You're the sponsor. You can, you're paying these vendors. You can dictate. You can tell the vendors, no, I'm willing to sign a waiver, and you document it such that you're able to pass that litmus test of in the event of an inspection, right? So you can sign off. We did this during again during COVID. We didn't have PSSVs, we didn't have SQVs. We just went in and did what we have to do in order to move the study forward. So why not do that right now? Align expectations early around recruitment. Again, being able to get realistic numbers from the sites in terms of enrollment, understanding what that infrastructure looks like. And you should be familiar, as I said, the CROs should be familiar with the layout, the lay of the land with the sites. What do they have? What don't they have? How can we provide for some of the infrastructure that, again, depending on your protocol and what that need is. Document and sharing learnings cross-functionally. Again, it helps. It also helps to share some of these lessons learned with your sites. If you're a very invested sponsor, you would want to do that. You would want to share some of these with your sites because, they're doing the best they can. And again, it's for the benefit of the patients. So why not be collaborative about this, the whole clinical trial? And don't think about, I've got to maintain this internally. This is my work. No, this is everybody's. It's a collaborative effort in order to get the drug through to the next phase of your study. So it's important that you share your lessons learned, not just internally, but external as well. Next slide, please. Site qualification visits. Again, as we go through the steps of study startup, this is another step that you can, if it is a naive site, you can combine. Or again, I would emphasize, if it's a site that you've worked previously and you know this site well, I don't think you would even need an SQE. And if there are some small critical areas, you can do a quick virtual meeting with them, or you can hold off and do it at an SIV. And if you do an SQV, make sure that you're optimizing on your time. Make sure you have the right people to meet with. Maybe a quick chat with the PI if he or she is available, the study coordinator, the pharmacy people. You again, it's not about checking a box. It's about how you work and how you add value to that visit. What even if it's a 4-hour visit, what did you get out of it? Not just meeting with one person, because that's where you would come back and you would have questions from the sponsor and you would not have answers because you've not optimized your time well. Focusing on protocol fit, that's the other thing that's important. Often we get carried away with just metrics and numbers, like, oh, I need 25 patients, I need 5 sites, and I need to qualify at least 8 sites in order to get 5 sites up and running. You have all these numbers, which is great, but I think you have to take a step back and look at these sites carefully, again, from your historical data to find if this is a good match for your protocol. Do they have the patient population? And again, this is something, we heard from Sridhar's presentation about, using your EHR. How do we, if it's integrated, taking, accessing that EHR as a site, asking the CRO, approaching the site, asking them to do a quick review and see if they have the patient population instead of trying to go in and trying to figure that out. It's being proactive about how you want to, handle your recruitment. And providing early feedback and guidance to sites. Not only providing feedback to sites, but I think it's important, and I should have put it on this slide, seeking feedback. I think feedback is a two-way street, right? Just like communication. So when you, as a CRO, you visit the site, you're giving feedback, but you want to also receive feedback. You want to ask, how can we do better as a CRO? How can we do better as a sponsor? It's very important because you want to be able to learn from your own mistakes. You want to be able to learn from people who are actually executing your protocol, and that's the site. And believe me, the study coordinators have much more to add to to your trial, sometimes even more than PIs. And I would like to give you an example where I was working in a smaller biopharma company, and I was very fortunate. I mean, clinical operations in this company was 5 people. And I was fortunate as the head of ClinOps to have a very like-minded CMO as well as a like-minded CEO. And number one, we took time to plan the study, and that's important. You have to plan. We've learned, and it sounds as cliche as it sounds, you don't want to, failing to plan is planning to fail. We know that. So we have to take time to plan. What we did in this organization was we actually had 2 separate, what we called mini investigator meetings. One with the investigators. We had 5 sites in the US. It was an ophthalmology trial. And we invited the PIs as well as the investigators to Boston, and we had an all-day meeting in terms of discussing the protocol, discussing the synopsis that we had actually, and what is it that we can improve. And when you have all the meeting of the minds in one room, it's so beneficial because everyone is bouncing ideas. Everyone is, kind of saying, oh, wait, this is great. Did you think about this? And just being able to take all of that information and try to put, assimilate that, everyone's ideas, and then put it into a protocol is so beneficial. But what we also did as a novel operation on our end was to invite the study coordinators and or any nurses that we had on the study to Boston for an all-day meeting as well. And the same thing, our company, we had the key stakeholders in the room, and we had the study coordinators, and we gave them full control of the discussion. As I said, they are the ones executing the protocol. How is it? How do we arrange and organize the schedule of assessments? How does it help for the patient? What do we do first? Do we do this imaging? Do we do this? And the study coordinators, if they're experienced, they'll be able to tell you, oh, no, your schedule of assessments is absolutely wrong. You've got to organize it in this way. And if you're requesting for an overnight stay, this is what you have to do. And, and at the end of the day, by the time we had these 2 groups of people meet with us, we really had a fully fledged protocol already, just to be able to check the grammar and the formatting and everything else. But we had this. And I know time is a luxury sometimes for all of us working in this industry. But if we can take a little bit of time to do that, it's not only beneficial to the sponsor, but it's also the appreciation that comes from the sites is something you cannot qualify, because the sites suddenly feel like, we're in this together. This is a sponsor we'd want to work with over and over again. So you can see, therefore, the benefits that you reap almost instantly from having that interaction with the sites. So it's very important to be able to do that. Next slide, please. Site initiation visits. Now, this is something I wouldn't want to ever sign a waiver unless you have a justified reason for doing so. You can miss out on your PSSVs, you can miss out on your SQVs, but you wouldn't want to miss out on your SIVs. You want to be able to secure the time, make sure that the PI is there. I know I have this graphic 5 minutes, and that's the reality. Sometimes, they're shuffling between seeing patients, surgeries, procedures, whatnot. So, but if you can have them block that time off, and when they do show up, take that time. And, if you have to switch the agenda around, you've got to do things, again, be able to optimize the time you have with the PI to be able to talk and address some of the main things. Again, it's not SIVs don't mean checking a box and going through the protocol, because these PIs are also very experienced. They know the protocol. They know what their work is in that therapeutic area. But it's asking the very direct questions that you need to ask them. Be prepared, get that. If it's only 5 minutes make sure you get that time to answer those questions. And so it's a training, but it's also motivation. You want to be able to motivate the sites, again, because you want to be able to get them to move faster, right? Whether it's the IRB process, the budget and contracts, everything is in their hands for the most part. How do you want to motivate these people? And it's important to have face time, not just with your clinical team, but with also the administrative team. That's the budget and contracts person. If there's an IRB coordinator, these people are just as important and stakeholders in your clinical trial. Ensuring that all systems, that they have access to it. Make sure you do that before you go to the site. You don't want to be fumbling and trying to be able to make sure they have access to systems when you get there. But again, doing your homework, doing some of this pre-work saves the time that the site people can appreciate very much. Incorporate remote SIVs when possible. Sometimes what we see in clinical trials is you rush to do an SIV, you're eager, and that's all well and done. But then suddenly there is a spoke, there's a halt, maybe, because we know we do things at risk, right? We've submitted an IND and the protocol. We've also submitted to the IRB, and we may get feedback saying, you know what, you've got to change some of these things in your protocol. So now you're looking at an amendment. So you've got to do, pivot and do some of the rework that you have to do. But we still do that at risk, only because we hope that everything would, work as we hope it would work in terms of timelines. But if you have done an SIV long after and it's been 3 months, you can't expect the site folks to remember everything, especially key areas that you want to be addressed. So you would have to reconsider doing a remote SIV to refresh everyone and bringing them up to speed, especially if you have an amendment. You now have to discuss what those key changes are. So again, it's all about being efficient and working smart. Next slide, please. Technology tools. Again, I've already talked about the centralized platforms that you can really optimize. eTMF integration, we all know that it's important in order to be able to get your documentation in place. E-consent, whatever we can do to be able to make it easier on the patient. E-consent is good, but again, I think there should be that human interaction as well in terms of explaining the trial to the patient. You can't just, email or whatever platform you're using to send the consent to the patient or to the caregiver and say, oh, let he or she read this and come with us to questions. Sometimes, patients can be very assertive, and they are their own advocates for themselves and their health, but sometimes they may not be. So you're better off by ensuring that you explain everything and then send the consent form, so that way they understand what they're reading. And then communication platforms for real-time updates is important. Again, you have to keep that communication constantly open between all of your stakeholders. Next slide, please. Metrics, yeah, I talked about metrics. Metrics do matter, but we shouldn't, and as I said at the beginning, we shouldn't kind of get, for lack of a better word, bogged down to metrics, right? It's not all about the metrics. It's also about the real data that we have. We heard how Sridhar talked about, the real world evidence. What is it that we have? And how can we use that data to understand things like recruitment? How can we get the patients we want? So what is the time that we should factor in our timelines from feasibility to SIV, or from SIV to FPI? I think that's more important, right? From SIV to FPI, because as I mentioned, you could have done your initiation visit, but suddenly there's a block somewhere, and now you've not been able to ship drug because the site is not fully activated, and therefore, your FPI, there's a delay. How can you prevent that from happening? A, better planning. B, being able to work with historical data and understanding even ahead of time, what is it, how long would a particular site take to get us from SIV to FPI? Site activation rate, and then the site productivity. Again, forecast versus actual. We do get metrics. I know when I was working with CROs, I would get metrics and they mean nothing. And I say that, with all honesty, because you can see the forecasting, you can see this blue line, and then you can see a green line, and it's kind of like the blue line, which is the forecasting, it kind of as this very textbook style of, from bottom and then going up, and then your actual is not even plateaued, it's kind of going down. It's like, yes, they got one patient in, and then suddenly there's a lull. Patients number 2, 3, 4, no one's been enrolled into the study thereafter. So how do we work with sites in order to be able to understand and avoid having a delta between your forecast and your actual? And we can do it together. We can work with our historical data with these sites, and we can work with the PI themselves to understand what the forecasting looks like, but what is the actual looking like. Next slide, please. Okay, so collaboration and communication, I've been emphasizing it throughout my presentation. It's important to have regular cross-functional, whether it's a huddle, whether it's a meeting. And again, when I refer to cross-functional, I'm not just referring to internal, but external as well. All of this, everyone that's a party to the trial, your sites, your ancillary vendors, your CRO, the sponsor, everyone is a part of this. Patient advocacy groups, another big, cross-functional group that contributes toward enrolling into your study. Site engagement strategies, how do you keep your sites motivated? We in the past, we have newsletters. Nowadays, I have not seen many CROs doing newsletters, and that's okay, again, because nobody has the time to read. But maybe a short message in some very effective way, whether it's a phone call, whether it's an email, being able to motivate the sites and let them know, you know, what's happening with the trial overall. Don't silo any sites out. If you can bring the study coordinators at least once a week or bi-weekly, it's important, again, to hear them, to share kind of the best practice as you're enrolling into your study. If one site is doing well and enrolling well, no data queries and all of that, that is your star site. How do you bring that site into actually playing a bigger role into capitalizing on what they are doing well and getting the other sides to interact and learn almost on real time as to how they can improve and actually be part of the trial. And I talked about feedback loops, right? It's feedback is not even with a CRA and a sponsor or CRO. It's not about finger pointing and giving feedback to the CRA. You should also invite the CRAs to give you feedback in terms of, sometimes they may not even have the tools to work, and so if you're not asking for that feedback, you would not know. And if you don't have an assertive CRA who is going to come up to you and say, look here, I can't function with my hands tied back. I need A, B, and C. If the CRA doesn't tell you that or ask for that, they're not going to be, efficient on their job. So again, understanding everything, looking at the big picture and getting involved, whether you're a site, whether you're a sponsor, everybody should be at the table. Extremely important. And that's what collaboration is. Next slide, please. So this is my last slide. I know the last or penultimate, I should say, because my last slide is Q&A. So key takeaways from my presentation: early planning. Take the time, as I gave you my case study about taking time to talk to PIs and talking to study coordinators. We cannot leave them out of the equation. You're able to actually have a very executable protocol. Consistency is important. A sponsor or CRO should not, unless from a regulatory perspective you are compelled to pivot, we should try by all means not to change things on the fly, because it becomes very distracting for sites, and they're not going to be able to get everything that you're asking for if you're having inconsistencies within the trial constantly. So do try to plan better, combine and streamline visits where feasible. Again, I'm not also a proponent of on-site monitoring visits. In my proposals, I push for a hybrid model, which is very few, of course, depending on the trial, the complexity of the trial, very few on-site visits, but more remote. Again, we are in an era where we have technology at our fingertips. Why not integrate systems? Why not have the ability to do your source data verification remotely and not have to go to sites? And I can tell you, and our next speaker, who is going to be talking on AI, Dr. Tandy Tips, will probably tell you that oncology sites, since COVID, do not want their monitors on site. They do not, because they don't have the real estate, they don't have space. Some organizations have given up their space since COVID. So because some people work remotely and all of that, or even if they don't, they are all squeezed into very small office spaces, or the new, which is the open plan concept, where again you don't there's no room for a monitor. So you have to plan better, and streamlining visits, trying to respect everybody's time, especially the site, because they're the ones doing all the work. Sometimes the CRAs may have to be more accommodating and not just look for metrics and trying to check a box in terms of timing, but try to make a visit when it's actually feasible for the site. Use technology to enable speed and transparency. Very important. I would probably, the key word here is transparency. Again, open communication and transparency, because if you're not transparent, you're not going to get the best of whether it's your vendors or whether it's your sites. I think everybody being transparent is also, preserves integrity of your organization and the respect that you can give and receive. Collaborate early and often. Again, it's something we saw in Sridhar's slide when he talked about innovating, collaborating. It's the same thing. Collaboration is so important. We can't work in silos. We're not going to be successful if we try to work in silos. And as I said, it's with both internal teams and external. So with that, I complete my presentation. And I know that Q&A is, I'm going to be here for the till the very end. So I'm okay with receiving questions at the end of all of the presentations.
Thank you, Tina. Thank you. Thank you. Uma, can we move ahead and
Yeah.
make Teddy as, I think she has joined now.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Tina ma'am. You have effectively touched upon all the challenges and the pain points and how technology is really helping the sponsors as well as the sites when it comes to the burden of the cost, the people management, and of course, the patient safety. Thank you so much. We look forward to having a Q&A with you. Thank you
Of
so much
course.
for staying with us till the end. We'll
Sure.
be again connecting with you for the Q&A.
Thank you for the opportunity. My pleasure.
With this, we'll move ahead with our next presentation. Let me introduce our next guest speaker of the day, Dr.
Uma, can you make a co-host for Tandy so that she
I
can
have
unmute?
made, so I have made.
Okay, perfect. So good morning, Tandy. Good morning.
Hey, good morning. It's actually good afternoon. Good afternoon for you guys. I
Good
guess
afternoon.
actually evening, closing in on the evening. So it's very nice to be here.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Tandy. I'd like to introduce you, and then I'll be handovering the presentation to you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Once again, we have one more wonderful speaker with us today, Dr. Tandy Teets, and she's a founder and Chief Executive Officer of Vinidel Oncology, Houston, Texas. Dr. Tandy Tips is a distinguished leader in oncology clinical trials with over 25 years of experience spanning academic institutions, contract research organizations, and the biopharmaceutical industry. As the founder and CEO of Vinidel Oncology, she has established the world's only CRO exclusively dedicated to early phase oncology study startups, focusing on accelerating the initiation of clinical trials to bring novel cancer therapies to patients more efficiently. Prior to founding Vinidel Oncology, Dr. Tips served as the department administrator for investigational cancer therapeutics at the University of Texas MD Anderson Cancer Center, overseeing the world's largest phase 1 clinical trials program. Her tenure there provided her with deep insights into the complexities of early phase oncology trials and the critical need for streamlined study startup processes. Dr. Tips has also held executive roles in global CROs and biopharmaceutical companies, including serving as vice president of the oncology site network at Precision for Medicine, where she developed a global network of 74 oncology research sites. Her extensive experience encompasses the management of phase 1 through phase 3 oncology trials and the cultivation of strong relationships with leading academic, integrated delivery networks, and community based research centers worldwide. Under her leadership, Vinidel Oncology leverages Global Oncology Site Universe GOSU, comprising over 250 oncology sites across 28 countries. The organization employs optimized study startup models and agile development processes to reduce timelines and costs, thereby expanding the delivery of life-saving therapeutics in cancer patients. Thank you so much, Dr. Tips. We are honored to have you over here.
The honor is all mine. And I'm ready to start whenever you are. Whenever you can get the slides up and we can get started.
Yeah, I'm sharing your slide. Just allow myself. So is my screen visible?
It is. Thank
All right.
you. And Again, I am very honored to have been asked to present and to meet everybody, even though I am a very, very long distance away. Except I'm probably the closest to Tina, even though we are in two different parts of the country. Um, Today, what I really, what we're going to talk about are what's going on in the clinical trial industry with regards to AI and tech, and how, because of the confluence of AI and tech, how it is not a replacement for relationships. It's only an enabler. Next slide. So let me first start out by saying I'm from Texas. I have a Texan accent. And so if I say something or if I speak too fast, if you guys will just please say, hey, Tandy, would you please repeat it, or you're talking too fast? Please do let me know, because I do have a twang. Okay. So let's first talk about AI's expanding role. And we're going to look at this globally. Within the last, I don't know, at least within at least the last 5 years, there has been an emergence of AI and tech to be able to help in all areas of healthcare, in clinical research, having to do with clinical trials, and now it's in almost every part of our life, to the point that, I mean, there are now here in the United States where there was the first semi truck that was driven without a person, that was totally being done by AI. So it really is expanding. And as it continues to grow in all areas of clinical research and across phases and therapeutic areas, one of the things that we are going to have to continually remind ourselves of and remember is that AI is an enabler. It does not replace a human relationship. It does not have the ability to be able to do what humans can do in terms of interacting with each other and having strong communication, having things like empathy and trust and reliability. So that's one of the main messages, that as we go through everything today, that I want you guys to keep in the forefront of your brain, is that, AI is here to stay. It's growing, but it doesn't replace our relationships. It's an enabler, but not a replacement. When you're working within clinical research, again, doesn't matter the therapeutic area, doesn't matter the phase, the relationships that you have with the key opinion leaders, the relationships you have with your private investigators, key site team members, such as, people that work on the contracts, that work on the budgets. Those are really the foundation for accelerating study startup. And I know Tina Kay, who is a great speaker and incredibly knowledgeable, we're friends and we also work together. I know she had a lot to say with regards to study startup, and probably also, spoke about the relationship piece, but it is something that's incredibly important. When, when you go to a site, there's, usually, at least for me, I have a main contact. There are people that I work with, and I'm able to go to them because of that relationship, that I've built with them, because of the trust that they have in me and that I've earned, that I can go to them and say, hey, listen, what's going on? Why can't, what's going on with patient enrollment? You guys, had one number for what was projected during feasibility, and you had another in terms of now what it is that ends up being the actual what's going on. And because of the relationship and because of that trust, they will tell me straight up what's going on. And so I can't emphasize enough how important relationships are. Having relationships, it accelerates everything. Being able to pick up the phone and speaking with somebody. All of us that are within clinical research, we think about the patient as being our primary purpose. At least I do. And that everything that happens from the time that A sponsor is developing, a compound, developing a drug, all the way through it getting approved, all the way through study startup, all the way through the duration of the trial. All of that requires strong, solid relationships with sites. And again, this is something that tech alone can't do. There are certain things that AI is able to do to make things easier for sites. It can make things easier for sponsors, but it's just not something that's a replacement. And patients they truly depend upon the relationships it is that all of us have that we can utilize in order to be able to have it to where they can get treatment options faster, things that could potentially change their life quicker. So, when we're looking at, the things that are, having to do with AI's expanding role and what's critical for the future, there's a much broader R&D ecosystem probably than what there ever has been. But despite where it is that you live and where research is being conducted, there are all new types of therapies that are coming up that are being developed now and that are being researched for all different types of rare disease, for cancer, for CNS, for autoimmune disease, all of these different things. And again, without human relationships, those things wouldn't be possible. We would not be able to get drugs to patients. We wouldn't be able to have the relationships it is that we have with sponsors, and to build upon those again without putting the effort in to knowing who it is that you work with, on the sponsor side, on the CRO side, on the site side, and taking the time to get to know them and showing them that the relationship it is that you have with them is not something that's transactional, but that it's something that's actually meaningful. Next slide. So as I've been talking about, that AI is an enabler and not a replacement. With all of the rise and all of the AI powered tools, there's a lot of machine learning tools out there as well that incorporate AI, such platforms that do, patient to study matching. There are a lot of those that are out there now. The number it has increased a great deal within the last 5 years in terms of having these patient to site to sponsor matching platforms. And these tools, they help to streamline things. They help to be able to organize things. They can help to support logistics. They can help to make logistics easier. Again, it's not replacing a human relationship. AI has a lot of great things about it. One of the things that, particularly when we're talking about numerous platforms that, offer the site and the PA databases, and when they don't have a real connection with the site, what happens is that, I'll give an example. There are companies that I know of that, and I'm not throwing any shade, it's just a fact. There are companies that I know that are within the CRO space that will tout having a relationship at a quote unquote site, or having a site network that's based on relationships. And in reality, what they're using are platforms like Sightline, or they're using platforms like Salesforce. And what happens is that in those particular types of instances, when CROs, as an example, need to be able to find an investigator, be able to find a site for their study, and when they're relying on these systems and not on those relationships, they're prone to errors. There have been more times than not where I have seen, and again, not speaking specifically with regards to any platform, but to where I have seen PIs have an automatic email that is sent out to them from whatever platform. That PI could care less. They do not know the person that's sending it to them. There's not a relationship there, and yet that entity that's sending it is basing it upon whatever information they got out of a platform without having a relationship. When PIs are referred trials, what they like is that they like to know who's sending them to them, if they know them, can they trust them, do they know that that respective person is quote unquote not going to be blowing smoke up their trousers and not trying to truly be authentic and genuine in terms of what it is that's going on. So again, this goes back to the importance, the true importance of human relationships. Tina Kay was talking a few minutes ago having to do with CRAs. And sites, and some sites, which is absolutely true, not agreeing to want to do insight monitoring, or at least limiting it drastically. CRAs would not be able to do their job without relationships. They wouldn't. None of us would be able to do that. Let's keep going. Next slide. So let's first talk about this is going to intertwine with everything that we've been speaking about so far. Let's first talk about strategic acquisitions. There are increasingly more, when I say capital firms, I'm talking about private equity, I'm talking about venture capital, that are acquiring site management organizations, which are SMOs. They're acquiring clinical trial networks, okay, and they're doing this to expand global footprint, to increase profits, to provide more access in different locations for patients to be able to go and get the care it is that they need, in terms of looking for a clinical trial. And all of these things, this has had a huge market influence, particularly here in the United States. There was an article that just came out yesterday that I read where it said that basically the acquisition of clinical trial site networks is now outpacing the growth of CROs. That's how big it has gotten. It's going to continue to get that way. So all these strategic acquisitions that are going on affect what it is that we all do if we're involved in clinical research, because a lot of these acquisitions, you have to be able to have relationships with these SMOs to see if they're interested in participating in your trial. And here in the States, again, that's something that is increasingly becoming very important. It's not just about going to the academic sites anymore. The SMO realm is growing at a very rapid rate across all types of therapeutic indications. Let's talk about mixed perspectives. So, like everybody's got an opinion. There are a lot of industry experts that have an opinion with regards to, is the involvement of private equity and venture capital and clinical research as a whole, is that something that's good, or it's something that there may be some ethical questions too? And that's a debate that is going on globally, not just here in the States, but it's something that's going on globally. And, people that are for, private equity and VC purchasing and acquiring, whether it's a trial site network or an SMO, or with more involvement overall within clinical research and development. The ones that are for it, what they see is increased access to patients, the potential for being able to enroll patients and possibly from a bit of a more diverse background. The treatment options increases the treatment options that you can get to patients. It increases trial portfolios. Of course, it increases revenue. But then there are also the critics that express the concerns about, that trial selection is being driven by profit, by how much it is that can be made, the enrollment pressures that come along with that because of the profit that needs to be made. And also, which I think is really important, is there's a real concern about the prioritization of financial outcomes over patient care. And that is something that is very much a live debate. That's going on. There's more and increased literature that's coming out about that. I think it will be interesting to see as things develop and as venture capital and private equity gets more involved within the R&D space, how the balance is going to end up being between the ones that are for it and the ones that say, "Hey, listen, this is a problem that has huge ethical implications." Let's move on to academic competition. I'll speak to some of the things it is that I know that are going on globally, but I'll start with the U.S. Academic institutions, so places like City of Hope, places like MD Anderson here in Houston, Memorial Sloan Kettering, UCLA, places like Dana-Farber, Yale, Fred Hutch, just as some examples. These are academic institutions that what they have done is that they have done a few things. One, they have developed satellite networks or they've acquired networks. Okay. Example, City of Hope, a few years ago, they spent a ton of money purchasing private physician cancer practices that were in the Los Angeles metro area and in the Orange County area, which is, I guess part of the larger Los Angeles metro area in California. And then they purchased Cancer Treatment Centers of America. They are one of the academic centers that are considered in a way a competitor for CROs because a biotech or pharma company can go directly to them. They can get their drug manufactured. They can get their phase one. Those sites have the capability to be able to do the first in human and phase one trials. They already have the sites, so that it's not like they need a CRO to get them. And it's going to be less expensive for the sponsor overall. We are increasingly seeing that. And with these increased satellite and regional networks and with these acquisitions, it's now providing really truly comprehensive services for these R&D companies that are wanting to move things along faster and wanting to have a one-stop shop for having it done. That is something, to consider. I know there are moves in places like in the UK and places across Europe, and I even think in places in Australia where there's some of this that's happening, not to the scale of what it is that's been happening here in the US, but I expect that it will be something where other countries will, I don't want to say mirror what the US is doing, but that they will follow suit. Next slide. So let's talk about the market shifts. We'll talk about it here in the US and we'll talk about it globally. So there is a lot of biotech volatility going on. And I'm sure that each and every one of you on this call has either experienced it, has known somebody that's experienced it, or you have read about it. And the overall, the volatility here in the US is from a lot of different things. Biotechs are losing funding when they've had funding. I've already had two biotechs that we're going to be working with Winnydale that they literally lost funding overnight. They had it and they lost it and now it's gone and they can't get it back. With the biotech funding remaining volatile, and with those biotechs losing funding and the ability to raise capital, things like oncology and orphan and rare disease, despite those funding shifts, those areas continue to be, I don't want to say as strong as what they were pre-COVID, but they're stronger than what a lot of areas are. Here in the US, and we're also seeing globally that the biotech volatility, the UK has experienced it. I know even in France, there have been biotechs that have been experiencing it. So this isn't just something that's happening in the US. I think it was last week, I ended up reading about an incubator that ended up coming out, I think it was out of Oxford. That was a small biotech. They went under. They went under. So there's a lot of this that's going on. Let's talk about global trial migration. So because of what's going on here in the United States with the cuts to HHS funding, which is affected NCI, designated cancer centers as an example. Anybody that gets NIH funding, it's affected the FDA. There are now huge concerns about the ability of the FDA to be able to still approve at the rate that they were before, to get trials through to where you can go from, obviously preclinical into a first in human. So what's happening is that there are a lot of biotech firms. There have been several articles on this week, last week, the week prior, that what they're doing is that they're reevaluating everything, and they are reevaluating the initiation of trials in the U.S., and they are looking to move to other countries. So they're looking to, Europe, looking to Australia at some point. I am certain with the great R&D, the great R&D expertise that's in India, that will be another place it is that they will be looking, because the U.S. is not. They're afraid the U.S. is not going to be able to continue to be the leader that it has been in that particular area. So, all right, so let's talk about international growth. In the UK, again, there are a lot of incubators, what I call incubators, that are coming out of places like Cambridge, that are coming out of Oxford. And they're small biotechs. And across the UK, this is happening. In Scandinavian countries, Scandinavia now is having a huge flux of a huge surgence, of growth in the R&D market, just the overall biotechnology market there, in places like Denmark, in Finland, in Norway, in Sweden. The Netherlands is looking, I don't remember the date of the year, but it's, I don't know, maybe 5-10 years from now. They are already investing in the infrastructure to have it to where the Netherlands is seen as a biotech hub, not just for Europe, but globally. And a lot of this has to do with all of the market shifts that are happening here in the US, what's happening with China. China will surpass the United States by the end of this year in terms of being the leader in the number of biotechs and the amount of R&D that's coming out. Okay. All right, let's go on. Next slide. So let's look at some opportunities. So, I mentioned this a little bit before. Orphan and rare disease, that's going to continue to be an area of interest for investors. It's something that is sorely needed. I mean, patients that suffer from, these rare types of diseases that are incredibly debilitating. There's going to continue to be investment there. There's going to continue to be investment in oncology and CNS. And there's going to continue to be a strong demand for that. And it's not going to matter whether you're in India, it's not going to matter whether you're in the US or whether you're in Timbuktu, it won't matter. Niche CROs. Niche CROs are expected to have, I guess, starting to get a little bit more of the market share, simply because they're more nimble, they're less costly. You don't have a revolving door of change orders. They're a lot more patient-centric. And with all of the things that are going on within the market these days, there's a void to be filled by niche CROs, such as the company I have, such as Tina's company is an example. What Deepa does with Clinosol is another example. There's going to continue to be a demand for those types of niche CROs to be able to work with sponsors. And the global benefits, of course, as there are fewer trials that are being done here in the US, it opens it up for those things to go to other countries and to be able to benefit from that and to be able to have, potentially improved patient population diversity as well. Next slide. So the challenges, we've been talking about funding instability, okay, and what's going on here in the U.S. It's affecting CROs. A lot of the CROs here in the U.S. have laid people off. They've got huge backlogs because of biotechs that had signed on with them, and those biotechs lost funding, or they've had a drastic reduction in funding. For me, the patient impact is what I always look at. And it's the first and foremost thing that's at the forefront of my brain in terms of everything it is that I do. They are the most affected. So when you have fewer trials, that means fewer opportunities for a patient to have a potentially life-saving opportunity via a clinical trial. So this has a huge impact with regards to patients. Also, site challenges. Clinical trial site and PIs, they, with all of the changes, there are going to be certain areas where you're going to have reduced, trial portfolios and revenue pressure. And sites already are having a lot of pressure with regards to resourcing issues. They don't have unlimited funding. And here in the US with the funding cuts, it's affecting them even more now. Next slide. So I'm going to say the same thing Tina did. And if there are any questions and answers, it can wait until the end. I will stay on until the end. And I want to tell everyone again, thank you so much for your graciousness and for allowing me to talk about these things that I have a passion about and that I do believe are incredibly impactful.
Thank you, Dr. Tandy, for your presentation and highlighting how the challenges are arising from the CTOs, the PI side, or the KOLs, and you have definitely spoken about the opportunities, the challenges, and the areas where the rise of biotech is happening across the globe. Thank you so much for your presentation. Thank you for staying back with us for the Q&A. We have received questions for you. Definitely will be one more time connecting with you once we complete the next speaker's presentation. So moving ahead with the last presentation of the day, I request everyone to stay back and get answers to your questions. We have received your questions and the speakers are waiting for you to answer those questions. Without much delay, I would like to share my screen and introduce our last speaker of the day.
Okay. So you have my introduction, Oma.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good evening, let me introduce the last speaker of the day, C.S. Mujibuddin. Mujib is a seasoned clinical research professional with over 15 years of experience in the pharmaceutical and clinical research industry. He holds a Master's of Pharmacology and MSc in Clinical Research from Manipal University. Throughout his career, he has held pivotal roles in renowned organizations such as QPS, Parexel, Accenture, Oracle, and IQAA, and he has gained extensive expertise in clinical trial management. He's a subject matter expert for cancer clinical trials. He has also experience in database developments and pharmacovigilance clinical data management, and he has knowledge in medical writing. In 2019, driven by his passion for education and training, with a vision to bridge the gap between the academia and the industry, he has founded Clinosol Research Private Limited. Under his leadership, Clinosol has emerged as a leading clinical research training organization, offering comprehensive training programs in various vertices of clinical research, such as data management, pharmacovigilance, regulatory, medical writing, clinical SaaS, etc. Mujib is an active contributor to the clinical research community. He has been a speaker and an academic partner at various national and international conferences, including those organized by the ISCR, Indian Society for Clinical Research, and Society for Clinical Data Management. His commitment to excellence in education and training has been recognized with several awards. From 2019 to till date, he has received 13 awards overall, and he has placed more than 2,000 students, and he has a huge alumni network across the globe. Beyond his professional endeavors, Mr. Mujib is dedicated to fostering supportive and empowering work environment with a strong emphasis on women empowerment and continuous professional development. With this short note, I would like to hand over the stage to Mr. Mujib. Thank you so much for joining us over here, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much, Uma, for giving an introduction. And I would like to first thank all the speakers who have taken the sessions, Dr. Sridhar, Tina, and Tandy, and Vasudev, sir, for initiation of this webinar. Then this is a wonderful platform because we have almost 100 students till now, also 100 people who are attending in Zoom, and also there are 50 plus people who are attending on YouTube. And this will be my last session. Everyone is waiting for. Okay. Oh, Uma, can I share my screen, please?
I'm sharing your slide deck, sir.
Can I share it? Because I'll
You
have.
want to share it out? I'll stop me.
I'll have my this one.
All right, please.
Thank you. So I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, sir. Your screen is visible.
Wonderful. So mine is last talk, and after this you'll be getting a feedback link where you can complete your feedback. I'll try to be more crisp because most of discussions have already been done. So my topic is very interesting, which is called as data-driven success. So this, during our clinical trials, we spoke so much about clinical trials and the efficacies and safety. But how data-driven success can be done, how data plays a major role to make sure that the efficacy is being correctly, accurately achieved, and also the safety is being discussed. And the most interesting aspect is innovation is most important thing in the world which is needed. But the word called as ethical innovation. So how are we going to make sure the right safety and well-being of a human beings are being protected? And we are working towards the ethics and values with the innovation during the clinical trial is more interesting. So there are two topics in my today's session. One is data-driven success, how data is deriving a success and making paths for going in a right direction. That's more important. The second one, how we can make sure the ethical roles played in innovation during the conduct of clinical trials. And this is about shaping a future for research through smart data, technology, and trust, because the smart data is more important. Everywhere we are telling smart clinical trials, smart devices, and smart wearables, and smart clinical trials and smart data, how technology and trust can work hand in hand, because we have to get the trust of a patient, either it is patient centric or data driven, whatever it is, the trust of a patient is more important, needed, and trust of a human being is more important while he is taking the clinical trial drug or medication. So why is this clinical data matters? Because we are speaking more about clinical trials and all those stuff, but how data is more important, why this clinical trial data matters more. The first one is the patient safety. The clinical trial generates huge amount of data, which might be critical to ensuring the patient safety and participant safety throughout the research process, because it's not about just a safety and understanding about adverse event, but it's about rational use of a medication, what combinations can be given, what permutations can be accepted, what can be prohibited, what can be concatenated. All those stuff comes into the clinical trial data, understanding about the patient safety. It's not just identifying and detecting a adverse event and preventing it, but how best we can use to avoid the risks, mitigations, and all those stuff comes into your patient safety. The second one, efficacy validation. We might get huge amount of data and a lot of noisy data will be there, but the validation of efficacy data is more important. And efficacy data is not just a data which comes saying that, okay, blood pressure drug we have given increasing or decreasing, but the quality of life, the happiness index, and how the drug is giving
the efficacy for the outcome of the patient, because the pro comes into picture, the COAs come into picture, and variables comes into picture, sensors comes into picture, and how efficacy is being collected, and the efficacy data points are validated, and how the robust data can confirm whether really treatment is working, not for just an efficacy, but also outcome of the patients. So which is more important for regulatory approval. The days have gone saying that, okay, these are the data points which you have to assess. Now we have got so many scales, so many questionnaires, and so many COAs and pros and variables, and their own devices are been coming up. So much of efficacy validation of data is been going up. The last one is market impact. So because the safety and efficacy is definitely needed, but the market impact is more important because people question everything based on data. The decisions are made based on the data, which might impact the lives and also market and also reputation. We are not speaking just about the data and selling of drug, but we are speaking about the data and its company reputation and the organization reputation, how it is being given about the clinical trial data. If a falsified data comes in picture, then the reputation and trust on that particular organization might be in question. So data quality is equivalent to the trial success. So the more quality data, the integrity of data, and the data malpractice and the falsification of data is not there, then you have the success of clinical trial. Either you go into market or change the molecule or change the design and do in a different way, then you're going to in success of the clinical trial. Yeah, most importantly, the data life cycle. So most of us have spoken about data, how the data is going into a life cycle. The first one, data collection. See, the earlier words were data was simple in paper based, where we used to collect, okay, vital signs is this, and the medical history is this, and ABC is this, and all those things. But now there are different sets of data already. So many people have spoken before me that we are getting multiple unstructured, structured, and all variety of data is coming. It's not just the data which is for efficacy and safety, but it is about screening data, it's about lab data, it's about pro data, it's about variable data, it's about CRF data, it's about EHR data, it's about mobile application data, it's about device data. Most of structured and unstructured data is coming, and to bring all the data at one place is something which is called as collection of data. So the first one, gathering of all structured, unstructured data which is associated to clinical trials is the first point, including insurance data and screening data, inclusion data, EHR data, and the patient identification data, and the randomization data, which is RTSM data, and the medication adherence or the medication supply chain management, or the vital signs data and safety data and lab data and the questionnaires or your device data. All those data is getting at one place where you collect that data. The second one is the management and validation and cleaning and validate the coding and query resolution process, because the data which is structured and unstructured might not be the clean data, or it might have the outliers, or it might have some inconsistency or incomplete data or wrong understanding of data. Say, for example, I have given a device. However, the hospital people have said that the patient has taken a drug, which is not as per the protocol. So that means that the data is invalid, inconsistent, and incomplete, or inaccurate data. And how are we validating that the data is complete, accurate, and consistent data? And how are we coding the data, including the adverse event or medications or medical histories or your any previous surgical data? How are we using the coding dictionaries, including MEDRA and WHO, is the second step. And the third step, the query resolutions, because most important, strongest tool to validate the data is you raise the query to the hospital or site and CRCs, and they answered their justification. It might not be invalid data, but the justification is more important for us to validate the data. So that's the second point, which is data management. And the third point, the data analysis. So we spoke so much of collection of data and also data management. And the third point is analysis of the data, or the biostatistical processes and visualization of data by using Power BI, Tableau, or any tools which has wonderful visualization of data which is being collected. Say, for example, you have collected 100 subjects data. Out of 100 subjects data, who are the male subjects under 20 years? Who are the male subjects 20 to 40 years? Who are the subject 40 to 60 years? Who are the female subjects under the 18 to 20? Like that, we are classification of data with a pictorial representation or visualization of data and analysis of data is something which is clinical data analysis. That's a third step. And the last step is reporting and archiving of clinical trial data. So ultimately, the final agenda for clinical trials is you report it to the regulatory bodies, get an approval of the data, and saying that, okay, we have gone into this design. This was the proper inclusion criteria, exclusion criteria, and this many subjects have completed, this many were terminated, this many were disposed. This is the outcome. This is the increase of efficacy, decrease of efficacy, safety, death subjects, all those data you are giving regulatory submissions and publication of data. And also you are putting that how the data is being archived in trial master files, because at any point in time, the regulatory bodies can come back and say that you showcase the data, you prove that data was being collected properly and audited properly, and what is the audit trial of the clinical trial data is being done. So there are 4 steps in a clinical trial data lifecycle. The first one is collection of data. The second one is data management and also validation of data. And the third one is clinical data analysis, including statistical analysis and visualization, and also the predictions of data. And the fourth one is the reporting, the regulatory submissions and archiving of clinical trial data, how the clinical trial data can be logged and stored accurately, which makes sure that the futuristic regulatory authorities can come and approve the clinical trial drugs based on the data which is available. The third one, we have spoken about so much about data, but now the technology involved in data collection, because you can't go and collect the data saying that, okay, you give a AHR, you give a insurance data, you give a prescription data, you give a telemedicine data, you give a lab data, you give a device data, you give drug compliance data, you give randomization data. You can't ask everything data separately, because it's a story which the subject screens, do take a drug, do give an efficacy and close the study. So this is a story which you have to continue, but every place there is a data which is flowing from the start to the end. And how technology took part of integrating the whole data at one place and predicting the clinical trial data and futuristic aspect is more important, because as the previous speaker spoke about adaptive trials, what is the importance of the clinical trial data to decide whether I am going in the right direction or not is also a very important point. So evolution of technology in clinical trial data collection. First one, paper-based era was there, which was manual case report forms, where there was significant errors, no data and integration was there. The data entry was slow, validation was challenging, query resolution process was challenging. The lab data was separate, the SAE data was separate, the drug data was separate, randomization data was no integration, nothing was there. The next one came as the EDC, which was called as digital CRF. The speed and accuracy has increased till there was some issues of integration of long data. The validation were built in. The errors were reduced, the anomalies were reduced. Say, for example, if someone gives a heart rate as 0, then it might fire an error saying that, boss, this will not accept it because the values cannot be a 0. So like that, the electronic data capture came into picture. The next one, the modern technology. This is what is the beauty of integration of all the data within the subject to make sure that data is being collected correctly, validated correctly, analyzed correctly, and reported correctly. So now there were different data points, unstructured and structured, wearable data, the mHealth data, the apps data, the sensor data, and real-time monitoring data was being lot of data which is coming, including insurance and EHRs and screening data and inclusion exclusion criteria, IVRS data. All those data came into picture, and integration of this data made sure by the technology. So already the previous speakers have spoken so much about how technology has evolved from the paper study to the integration of data and prediction of data and understanding whether I am going in a right direction or not. Yeah, so this is most important one. which is called as the real world data and real world evidence studies. So now the days have gone where you go for a lab or a bench to a patient. Now we have patients who are been suffering more, and we are collecting the more information, and we are going back to the lab and preparing the molecules here. One more method is the drug is being put with the clinical trials with a very minimal number of subjects, because we have to prove its safety and efficacy. It gone into market and real-time data is being collected about the ongoing safety and efficacy, which is real world data and also real world evidence, which gives a lot of information about your ongoing drug research or ongoing drug safety and efficacies. There are different sources, already I have spoken. The EHR records, electronic health records, including your prescription records or your X-rays or ECGs or the medical records. All those records comes into EHRs and insurance claims, the patient registries, mobile health applications. So these are all different sources of data which came into picture during your real world data. And there are different applications we are using. The first one we are using for post-marketing surveillance safety studies with this kind of a data and analyzing this data. The second one, we might think that the drug can be used as hypertension, but we came to know that it can be used for the improving treatment for baldheadedness or alopecia. So that's label expansion. You can expand the label. During the market, real world data is coming and real time data is giving so much of answers, and comparative effective studies can be done. And also natural history of diseases can be identified with the real world evidence studies or real world data. Regulatory acceptance is more because you are having huge amount of real-time data. You're not controlling the subject, but in real time, he is taking the clinical trial medication or he is taking the medication which is already in market, increasing acceptability from the global authorities or regulatory authorities, including FDA, EMA, and CDSCO, making sure that the complementary evidence for the traditional trials. The phases of trials are traditional trials, but the more important is it's giving complementary evidences that how this data can be utilized along with traditional data to showcase the evidence of ongoing safety, ongoing label expansion, ongoing post-marketing surveillance studies. Yeah. So now this is very interesting. Data pools to data lakes. Now we are sitting on data lakes. Huge amount of data is available. Huge amount of patient data information is available. How are we going to stabilize, validate, and utilize that data is more important. So earlier it was data pools, the cleaned data, more cleaned information, structured repositories and libraries, and limited integration capabilities were there. Integration was not there. See, we have to integrate all the data, then only the meaningful data or the prediction of data can be done or analysis of data can be done. That's the first point. The data pool was cleaned, structured, and also integration was limited. Then we got something which is data warehousing. So the aggregated data, organized systems were there, but basic analytics was there. Huge analytics was not there. But now the biggest word which came into data lakes. We are sitting on data lakes. That's what we always say, that we have a huge amount of patient data, and we have to make sure that data is being utilized to identify the public health policies or the diseases which are going to occur in future. So the raw data, the structured data that are AI ready, and also they are comprehensive data which can be utilized for the predictions. So modern data lakes integrates all diverse data, including images, genomics, and wearable devices output, make sure that the sophisticated analysis is being done and clinical data science can work in proper way. Yeah, so the biggest word, clean data, and smart decisions. So what is this? What is clean data? What is smart data and smart decisions? The first one, the noise reduction. There should not be any other data which is giving wrong indication and wrong noises. We need to have rigorous cleaning process. Make sure the outliers, the top one and the bottom one are removed, and inconsistencies are removed, and reliable foundation of analysis is being done. So make sure the data is clean, remove the outliers, inconsistencies, and the noise reduction is being done. The second one, we have to make sure the regulatory readiness. It means that it is as compliant with your regulatory requirement to be submitted, making sure this speeds up the submission and approval process. You are not going and giving anything data which is not required and which is making the data approval more complicated. So regulatory readiness. And then third one is precision medicine. See, we are trying to not say that one shirt suits for everyone. So it's different shirts based on genomic data, based on disease data, based on combination of diseases, based on combination of drugs, based on the age criteria, based on gender criteria, based on food habits, based on racisms. All those criteria comes into picture to understand the precise medication to be given. It does not mean that one medication suits for everyone. Every medication has a different criteria based on the metabolic enzymes present, or the food habits, or the physical exercises, or the age factors, or the disease combination, or the other criteria which are there in human beings. That's what is precision medicines, which is clean data enables targeted therapies. The targeted therapies are more, customized medications are more, and patient will feel very happy to take the customized and precise medication rather than one medication suiting for everyone. Okay, so now the biggest problem, the data security and compliance. See, we spoke huge aspects about data, but there is a big problem upcoming. That problem is the data security. That's why we always say that cyber security is growing. You can attack on the data, or you can attack on the confidentiality information, the data security and compliance. The more demand is on security technologies wherein it's end-to-end encrypted and access controlled, because we are working on patient data, and as per HIPAA compliant, we need to have our security technologies and end-to-end encryptions wherein this data cannot be leaked or broken, and confidentiality of subject is being maintained. And the second one, regulatory framework. The security and compliance has been clearly mentioned by regulatory framework, which includes GDPR's, HIPAA, and 21 CFR Part 11, which is electronic use of the electronic records and electronic signatures. And patient protections. The most important word, we are collecting huge amount of data, which is electronic data, and make sure that the transfer of data or the archiving of data or use of the patient identifications, which is PHI, the patient health information should be confidentially maintained, and consent form should be maintained in very accurate confidentiality. And monitoring systems, the clinical trial monitoring systems, we have got different system now. It's called as the risk-based approach. It's not that all 100% has to be monitored, but where is more risk, that is what we are going to collect, and we are going to assess the risk-based approach, or audit trials are being conducted, or audits are being performed. Yeah. So more important, the real-time transfers, how data can be transferred. Now you can't say that, okay, sir, I'll use WhatsApp. It cannot be accepted. The real-time transfer of data, and also how the data can be used and standardized the data. So cloud platforms have been used. The data clouds are being used. The enables real-time data capture and also global access of information. I can share this information to US person wherein I am storing in cloud, and he can access the data, and he cannot modify the data. If he modifies or changes any data, audit trail is being there, and the modification cannot be deleted. No data cannot be deleted. All those criteria have to suit, because the trial transfer of data is more important. And the second one, integration, more important. The EDC, CDMS, TMF, and RTSM platforms, all the platforms are being interconnected with this, because you have EDC system, CDMS system, TMF system, RTSM system, and ePro system, COA systems. All the systems are being integrated, and how are we going to use these systems? And the data standards, so that it can have smooth protocol flow, the data standards, and real-time updates, so that the all stakeholders work most current information. They cannot work on the previous versions and previous amendments, or make mistakes on the previous versions. Most important, I think most of speakers spoke about it. AI ML in clinical trials already. I think couple of slides were being spoken already by the speakers. First one, site selection and recruitment has become very easy, because algorithms have identified the research location which gives the right subjects with the right criteria, with the right inclusions. Machine learning matches the patients based on the profiles which are available based on EHR data, or insurance data, or the pharmacy data, or telemedicine data. The adverse event predictions can be done. Predictive models are being identified so that safety signals can identify the early detection and preventions. Automated codes improves the safety reporting, and also the automatic reporting systems make sure that it's reported immediately. And NLPs, which is called as the natural language processings, extract the insights from unstructured data. So because imaging data is unstructured data, you can't say that last month image to this month image is this difference. Because this is unstructured data, the imaging data, the happiness index data, or the quality of life data, all those data are unstructured data, and transforms the nodes into analyzing information, which is structured data. Image analysis, computer vision enhances the radiological assessments, which improves the consistency in endpoint evaluation. What are the skill sets required for data-driven clinical workforce? Most of you guys wanted to go into clinical trials or data or management or other kind of a jobs. First one, you need to have a very good domain knowledge, including GCP, PV, and protocol design and CDM. The second one, you need to have very technical skills, including series standards, Metra, and SAS and Python. The third one, you should have a clear communication, ethical decisions, and cross-functional algorithms, including communication, convincing, and presentation skills. The fourth one, platform knowledge, including your metadatas or CTMS or SDDA or RTSM systems or protocol designing tools. So all these four skill sets are required for the next generation workforce or the people who are listening these sessions. Okay, the next important one, the ethical innovations, the way forward. What is the way forward of ethical innovations? The balanced speed with safety. So it cannot be very accelerated development without compromising of protection of subjects and rights and well-being of subjects. New technologies must enhance rather than bypass the safety measure. It has to enhance, but it should not bypass something which is safety concerns. Ensuring transparencies, maintaining explainable AI systems. You can't go and say that, okay, I'm putting AI, but you have to explain the AI so that people come into confidence to use the systems. Including the comprehensive informed consent, and patient deserve to understand how data is being used, how the data is being protected, and informed consent should be clearly explained that your data is being protected as per HIPAA, 21 CFR and GDPR regulations. And promote global collaborations, which is more important. The foster cross-border regulatory partnerships and data sharing, harmonized approaches, all those aspects, making sure the protecting participants worldwide. We are not speaking about one trial subjects. The summary and takeaways, the data is life. That's the first point. Data is everything. This is data age. The clinical trial data represents the patient experience in digital forms. It deserves utmost care. Understand data, speak data, analyze data, and data gives more information. The second one, quality matters. Everywhere it is quality. The quality of data matters a lot. Clean, secured, and also the data leads to successful clinical trial. Excellence in data management is non-negotiable. You can't compromise at the excellence at the data management. The third one, most important one, ethics first. Technology is just a tool, not the substitute for ethical principles. The human oversight remains essential. AI/ML can't take our jobs because ethics are more important while you are having the oversight of the AI or ML. So these are the summary takeaways. Data is life, quality matters, and ethics first. And I think this is my last slide. Thank you so much for your attentions. And then we are opening for floor for questions. But I'm thankful for all the speakers who have taken their time personally and came and gave sessions. It was around 2.5 hours session, and we have full house till now. Also, I'm very thankful for all the delegates who have got registered and who are listening in Zoom and also online in YouTube. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, for your insightful presentation. Without much delay, I would like to go ahead with the questions. Sridhar, sir, are you here with us?
And if we can post the feedback forms also, it will be nice.
Yeah, our team will be posting, sir.
Yeah. Once you have completed the feedback forms, you will be receiving your certificates.
Yeah.
And any conclusion notes by Tandy or Tina?
we can
We
go.
have a few questions.
Yeah. Yeah, please.
Do we have Sridhar sir by any chance?
I
Okay.
think so. He was in having some meeting. So
Oh,
I doubt. No, he's not there.
okay.
We can
So
go
we
ahead
have,
with questions for Tina or Tandy.
okay. This question is for Tina.
Okay.
So the question, I think, Tina, ma'am, can you unmute, and I hope you're able to reply.
Yes.
Tina is
Yeah, thank you so much. Uh, in your experience, how accurate are current feasibility assessments in predicting site performance and patient recruiting timelines?
Can you repeat the last bit of it in predicting?
Yeah. In predicting site performance and patient recruitment timelines. In your experience, how accurate are current feasibility assessments in predicting site performance and patient recruitment timelines?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's really hard. I mean, one of the things that I have seen working on the sponsor side, when we get questionnaires back, often, we're at a meeting reviewing some of these questionnaires, and when you get numbers, you would have some sites reporting, oh, I can give you 5 patients a month. And you could have the other end of the spectrum where you would have sites saying, I can give you 1 patient. So when you have certain outliers like that, you tend to think you would want to take it with a grain of salt. You can do your best guess in terms of looking at the feasibility questionnaire and taking those numbers, but then I go back to my mention, which is if you have data that saved in your platform and you are getting numbers that don't match up, you try to come up with an average, right? So it's not the only way to do forecasting. It helps, but not in its entirety.
Thank you so much for the answer, ma'am. Yeah, there is one more question for you is what role do patient advocacy groups or community engagement play in enhancing feasibility and accelerating patient enrollment in clinical trials?
Oh, a huge, huge role. I'm sure Tandy would also, echo this, but they do. They do. I mean, this is why it's so important to have patient advocacy representation in your IRBs. It is important that you meet with them because, I mean, I work very closely with one patient advocacy group and we work on 2 rare diseases. And these groups have the patients, they work with the patients every day, so they know their patients and they know which patients really want to even sign up for a clinical trial. So that's your best referral point. You can beat that.
Great, great. Thank you so much for that, ma'am. So many questions are coming up at with the current time in hand. I request that we may be writing to you all the other questions.
Of course, of
We
course.
we expect that during your free time, if you can answer, we'll be again sharing those answers back to the attendees. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Ma'am, any final message that you have, either for the sites or the principal investigators, or currently we have so many professionals joining in with us from the clinical research industry, all across from the CROs, SMOs, the clinical research associates, the clinical research coordinators community, and also we have a beautiful student community over here from all the life sciences, medical, dental, and the pharmaceutical sciences backgrounds. And also we have people from academia joining in with us here. We have received more than 750 registrations for this session
Wow.
because due to
Congrats.
the limitation, we had to allow not more than 200 people here. So I request you to share your thoughts, or if you have any, you have already touched upon all the important areas, the technology, how the cost can be cut down, and how the patient safety can be improved or can be addressed with the site feasibility checks and early detection. Early communication is important when it comes to site feasibility. Uh, you know, uh, your message to all these people and your suggestions for betterment of their work or going ahead if they want to become more professional in this industry. Your suggestions to them.
Are you asking me to offer some?
Yes, ma'am.
Sure,
Please share
sure.
your suggestions to all these
Yeah,
people.
no, absolutely. My main thing is to stay the course, right? Particularly for the students, for the young professionals. And we are in an era, and you heard Tandy say this, where biotech companies are, tanking, but stay positive. I entered the industry in the most unorthodox way. I didn't enter as a CRA or a CTA. I came in as a clinical project manager because I had project management training. And I stayed the course. It was hard to, in fact, even make a breakthrough into life science. But fortunately, I was able to, work with a consulting company, and I got in kind of, through that back door, if you will. It can be hard. We know that. We've all worked it, 60 hours, sometimes even longer, different time zones. Today is a classic example of, US time zone versus Indian time zone. But you have to you have to be agile, you have to be versatile, you have to be your own advocate as an employee. Um, you know, Definitely network, even no matter what you do, make the time to network. I attend so many conferences because you don't know who the next person that you would meet. And the other important thing is um, stay abreast of what's happening in the industry. It's important. Don't wait for others to share the information with you. If you can get it, the Cliff Notes version, which is kind of the summary, you can, nowadays everything is accessible so fast. And yeah, and just keep going, and be be assertive, ask questions, and learn as much as you can. That's what I would give as a message.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Your journey is very impressive and very motivating for all the youngsters, all the women out here, the females, who are mostly in India. We see most of the students even are from the females. No, they are females in life sciences industry than men that we see, and we are seeing a huge
Yes.
kind of empowerment across the globe when it comes to women education, that may be working, going outside and becoming self-sufficient, and when it comes to even work, I could see the kind of reflection in you and Dr. Tandy also, the kind of knowledge that you have gained through your dedication right from the stage where even people couldn't have thought about, we can get into this industry. From that stage, you have made your own reputation. You are standing as an example for all the women out there that they can, if they are dreaming, they can really do it. And you have given one inspirational statement: failing to plan is literally planning to fail, which has really inspired me. And of course, I hope all the attendees out there today. Thank you once again for joining with us today. And definitely we'll be in touch with you for getting all the other answers for the remaining questions that are flowing in our chat box. Thank you so much for joining once again, ma'am.
Thank you,
My
everyone.
pleasure.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Thank you, Tandy. Thank you, Tina. Thank you, Uma.
The next question is to
Oh,
Dr.
you
Tandy.
have some more questions?
A few,
Oh,
two
good.
questions.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. Dr. Tandy, here is a question for you. From a site operations perspective, what are the most critical success factors in ensuring rapid activation and achieving first patient in? As per
You know that's a really good question, and it's one that is incredibly important. So, um, you know, the things that are critical for sites, and I'm probably going to say a few things here, okay? The things that are critical for sites will first start out with I'm going to go back to the relationship piece. They have to know their sponsor. They have to be able to transparently communicate with the sponsor, okay? Um, and the sponsor, in return, needs to understand the site and what the site needs, okay? Patient enrollment is hard. Tina will tell you that it's hard. It's becoming harder. The more complex studies get, the harder it is to be able to enroll. Um, and based upon my experience, you know, the best way to be able to achieve FPI, the best way to have sustainable enrollment has to do with knowing at the get-go what your sites are good at and what they're not good at, and who you can give trials to and who you can't. Okay? And them understanding, okay, sites truly understanding everybody on the team. So when I talk about a team, I'm talking about the CROs are part of the team, I'm talking the PIs are part of the team, the PIs team is part of the team. They all have to be rowing in the same direction, albeit with different oars, but rowing in the same direction and understanding what those time points are, where the patients are going to be coming from, to be thinking about that ahead of time, but also to put in mitigation and contingency planning around risks having to do with enrollment. And I think Tina would agree with me. Did I answer the question?
Yeah.
Of course, Dr. Tan.
Well, if I didn't, you tell me, and I'm happy
No,
to
no,
continue to babble on.
you have answered it very clearly that
Okay.
not just communication, clear communication, early communication, and communication at the right time is very important. That may be between PI and CRO, or a CRO
It-
and the sponsor, or a PI sponsor, site and the sponsor. That may be any stakeholder. A clear, timely communication plays a key role in the success of the study, and also self-assessment of the weaknesses and the strengths also
it-
matters on here.
And I'll also say one other parting thing with regards to just that question. None of us are mind readers. If we were mind readers, we would be making a heck of a lot of money and would not be doing what it is that we're doing. Okay. A lot of times, sponsors expect sites to be mind readers. And so sites need to come back and say, I want to make sure that what it is that I'm hearing is right. I want to confirm what it is that our expectations are, because more times than not, you're going to be expected to be a mind reader. And then you're going to, and then if that ends up happening, and you don't clarify those things, and that communication is not transparent, it is not good for anybody. Mostly not good for the patient.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your clear explanation, and understanding the expectation is the first step to clear communication.
Okay.
Thank you so much for that answer, ma'am. Okay. The next question to you is, what metrics do you believe are most predictive of a site's ability to deliver on early recruitment goals?
Okay. So metrics are not in a vacuum. Metrics start during study startup. Okay. At least that's how, you know. So the metrics, depending upon your timeline for when your clock, I call it the when the SSU clock starts to tick. So whether the SSU clock, your clock starts to tick when this when the sponsors accepted you as a site, or when the protocol, or when you've received the protocol, and then the milestones up through that. So all the key milestones having to do with essential document collection, what the milestones are for FPI, and then also what the milestones are for everything after study startup that have to do with the recruitment throughout the duration of the study. And the metrics that the metrics that should be looked at, besides just SSU, or even looking at I think I lost her.
No. I think she had some internet issue.
Okay.
You're
All right.
audible.
Sorry. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't like in the Twilight Zone or something, because that does happen because I'm blonde sometimes. So, anyway, the metrics that need to be looked at are, besides just FPI, it's the things that come before FPI, and then the metrics after that are, when the first patient is dosed, how many screen failure rates do you have? How is your screen failure rate in proportion to what was projected, and what are the actuals regarding your patient enrollment that was on the FQ? One of the things that Tina, I think, brought up, and if she didn't while I was on the call, I know that she did probably earlier, is the fact that when you have an FQ that is study specific and you're not continuing to ask sites the same Groundhog Day questions, feeling like they're repeating the same day over and over again with the same questions, that is another way to help to really be able to fortify enrollment more. It also is more of an incentive for sites, because sites will see that you are doing what it is that you can to recognize that they don't have unlimited time, money, and resource, and that you're truly partnering with them. So those would be overall, those are my suggestions with regards to when you're looking at, metrics, because it can't just be one thing. It needs to be a continuum. I mean, even honestly, even up to data entry. And how quickly data is being put in, and are there any delays? And I'm going to give you a very quick example in terms of why this is important. Several years ago, I was working for, not for myself, but for a totally different CRO. And we were working with a very large, well-known academic site that's here in the US. That site had been delayed a year on inputting data. Okay. And so when you have that delay, when you have that kind of stuff that's happening as well, that can also end up impacting your overall, looking at your metrics for your actuals in terms of what's actually going on with the study. Did I answer the question?
Yes, I think that answers the question, Tandy. So
Okay.
thank you so much, Tina and Tandy, for joining. I think it's almost hours.
Thank you. This has been great. I mean, it truly has. It's been wonderful. And I will tell you guys, Tina's heard me say this more than once. I love y'all's accent. I love the accents, because you guys don't sound like I do. And you could probably read a dictionary to me and I would be in hog heaven. So I am always glad to be on calls where it's with people that don't sound like I am, don't look like I am, and that are nothing like me. So that's great. I love that.
Thank you, Tandy and Tina. No further questions are there. So thank you for joining today's webinar, and thank you everyone who have joined. And we'll be sending the certificate shortly. Thank you, everyone.
Okay. See
Thank
you later.
Awesome.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Okay,
you.
bye-bye.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.
Bye. Have a nice, wonderful evening. Bye.
Bye-bye.